Hello everyone, it's averydawnside and welcome back to another video. So in honor of my 1-year celebration here on YouTube, I figured I would share some of my best tips and tricks that I've picked up over the past year, both in roleplay and non-roleplay, just things that made being a YouTuber easier on me. And I'm going to be training 𝙁𴜱 here. She's level 1 and extremely sad, so please don't expect her to be fast. But without further ado, let's just get right into the video. So we're going to be starting off, I will section the video into 2 sections with roleplay tips first and then non-roleplay tips afterwards. So I will have timestamps listed in the description if you want to skip to one section or the other, but if you're not and you just want to hang out here, then welcome to the video. So to start with roleplay tips, as many of you know, I started my channel as a realistic roleplay channel and then kind of branched out, but it is my roots, so we'll start where I started. And my first tip is to use the escape button when using emoticons or like the emotions in game. So by this, I mean, when you're filming, you want to obviously start your recording and then do an emotion. So let's say I do talking. Instead of dragging and clicking this button, the chat window, to close the chat window, it's a lot easier to do the talking and then click escape so that you don't have to move around your little mouse over here and it's easier to crop the footage later. So that's my #1 tip. I actually learned this from 𝙭I did not do this for the longest time and it would always get super complicated because my mouse would end up being in photos and it was really inconvenient. And yeah, I picked that up from 𝙭, so thank you, 𝙭. Alrighty, the second tip is to make the mounting animation. Okay, this one is actually so highly questioned. Every roleplay video that I post, I get so many questions on the mounting animation that I use because it looks more similar to the Sims animation for mounting a horse. And that is because my tip for that is when you're using the mounting animation in a realistic roleplay, you don't actually want to use the SSO's like animation when you mount the horse because it looks a little funky. What you want to do is already be on your horse mounted and then dismount the horse and use that clip but put it in reverse, and that is how I get my mounting animation. I'll put a little clip up on the screen, that way you guys can kind of see what I mean, but that is why the animation looks different than it looks in game, because it's actually the dismounting animation but put into reverse. That is something that I just randomly came up with because I would always cut those types of clips out of videos because I felt like the footage it looked unrealistic until I discovered that trick randomly one day, and I've stuck with it ever since. The next one is another common one, and that is, you guys always ask me how I will be in races like this but not get the little, like these little arrow marks in it. So, oops. We're going to restart this race for the purpose of my explanation here. Okay, so the trick for this is what you want to do, I'm just going to skip this race, is you want to angle your camera away from whatever jump you're starting at and go all the way like over to a completely separate jump. That's how you can't see. For example, like I could have used that clip right there in roleplay footage, and it does get a little tedious because you have to like restart the race multiple times when the time runs out, but you know, it makes it worth it. Some races have a really long time that you don't need to be at the next checkpoint for, but that is how I always include those clips of any like jumping courses that aren't there. I just restart the race multiple times and smash clips together, and that is how I do it. The next tip that I have is, if you're worried about length or footage doesn't turn out in your role plays, make sure you include photos. So I think something that really stresses people out is they feel like they have to only include video footage of SSO in roleplays, but in my opinion, I think sometimes it's more realistic when it's not all video footage, because if you think about real life, your whole life isn't in videos, it's in photos too. So I'm trying to think of an example. For like sale horse videos, you can include an ad that you created and put that up on the screen for 10 seconds while you talk over it in a voiceover rather than just showing footage of the horse. I think it makes it a little more, you know, variety, and it just makes it seem a lot more realistic, and it lengthens your video. If you are worried about having a super short video, it really helps with lengthening it and adding some time. This is a random one. This one you really don't have to do, but if you are choosing to include photos and like documents documents that you created for your character for the roleplay, my best advice is to find a designated font that you use for your character's handwriting so that it's consistent over time. So for example, I edit all of my like documents and like graphics and stuff that I include in roleplays in Canva, and the font that I use, I believe, is called Amsterdam or something, and that has become Avery, my character's designated handwriting font in all of my roleplays. That way, if people decide to go on a binge watching spree of your videos, which I know some of you have done that before, that way it's consistent and it seems like her actual handwriting rather than it changing every time. Because if you think about it in real life, your handwriting doesn't change, it's always going to be consistent. It might change a bit, but for the most part you want to have a consistent handwriting. Okay, the next one, this is a really big one, and I think this can make or break your role plays, and that is that music is key. So you set the tone of your video with your music and with the ambiance, and some people choose not to do music, and that's even a decision in itself. Some people like to use really raw, like Foley sounds, and Foley is like the natural sounds like you would hear in game of the hooves revving. Yeah, of the hooves running and stuff like that, and that's totally up to you. But to set the ambiance of your roleplay video, you want to include music that matches the tone of what you're going for. So for example, if you're going for a more sappy, like sentimental or dramatic tone, you want to go with like piano music, stuff like that, not a lot of words. If you're going for happy-go-lucky, like maybe some riding clips, a hack vlog, you want to include happy, upbeat, maybe summer music. That's another huge thing. You want to make sure that your music matches the tone of your season in your video. That might sound a little bit weird, but for example, in my winter vlog roleplay that I did, I made sure to include kind of more melancholy music because it matches more of a wintry vibe rather than, I'm not going to put some happy upbeat summer music to a winter video because it doesn't add to the ambiance, it kind of destroys it. So music is definitely key. Also make sure, this is a huge thing, but make sure the music that you're using is copyright free if you're putting it on YouTube, or else you can get a copyright claim, you can get your video taken down, you can lose your monetization rights, stuff like that. It's pretty tedious, but it definitely makes a huge difference. The next one is be creative, pull inspiration from anywhere and everywhere. So I think sometimes people get a little bit too much in their head when it comes to thinking of roleplay, and that is how you end up doing a lot of the same things that other people have done, but pull inspiration from literally anywhere. For example, I have a video that is in my back pocket currently and I haven't used it, so I'm not going to explain or expose it too much. But I got the video idea from a viral video in real life, and it's kind of a dramatic video, but it is an in real life like horse experience that someone experienced, and I thought, oh, that would be really cool to recreate in Star Stable because no one's ever done that before, and it is like a very valid thing that has happened. So that is something that I have in my back pocket. I don't want to expose it because it's going to be a very cool video when I get around to making it, but yeah, so just pull inspiration from anywhere, from TikToks, from viral videos on YouTube, from dodo videos, from something that happened to you personally. Anything and everything can become an experience in Star Stable. You just have to want to create it and look for those ideas in places that you wouldn't normally find them. Okay, and my last one for roleplay, this one I guess isn't really a trick, it's more of a tip, and that is to never ever force yourself to make realistic roleplay content because it's extremely obvious. And I don't say that to make people feel pressured if they are only roleplay channels to only make roleplay videos, because I know that a lot of people do that, but my best advice, and I think if you talk to any roleplay YouTuber, whether they only do roleplay or they branch out from roleplay and do other things as well, is you never want to force yourself to do roleplay because it's not going to end up being quality work. It's not going to be work that you're proud of. It's just going to be something that you threw together, and even if you might not like it in the moment, you probably won't like it down the road either because you know that it was just thrown together. So that's why like my roleplay videos can become inconsistent in how often I create them because I'm not going to force myself to create art that I don't want to make, if that makes sense. It's kind of like if you are someone who draws, like you can draw when you're unmotivated, but you're not going to feel proud of that drawing because it's going to feel like a chore. And especially in roleplay, you never want your storyline or anything to be a chore because then your ideas become bland and you can tell that the creativity is more lacking when you don't feel like you actually want to do it. So that's why sometimes I'll go through months where I post roleplay videos all the time, or I'll go through times like I am right now where I'm like, I could make a roleplay video, but it's not going to be the most creative, juicy thing possible because I'm not 100% motivated to do it. So that is one of my biggest tips, is don't ever force yourself to make content. And I guess this goes for realistic roleplay and non-realistic roleplay. I just think it's more applicable to realistic roleplay. But don't ever force yourself to make content that you don't want to for the sake of others. Your channel is your channel for a reason, and you should create the content that makes you happy and you feel fulfilled. Those are the end of my roleplay tips. I don't have a ton because I think roleplay is just something that you pick up over time. You want to be unique and different, so even though you follow my tips maybe, also don't be afraid to come up with your own. Roleplay is so unique in the fact that you can be extremely creative with it and the way that you choose to do it. So yeah, those are my best tips for if you have a roleplay channel, if you just want to go ahead and make one roleplay video. It is a lot of fun, but you want to find those tips and tricks that help you out over time. But okay, moving on to the non-realistic roleplay tips. These I guess there are tips and tricks, but most of them are just tips, because when it comes to regular content, you can do just about anything with it. There's not one particular way that it's going to be viewed because everyone has their own perception. But my first tip is, if you have an idea, take it and run with it. Don't wait for someone else to do it. So I kind of briefly already touched on this a little bit in another video, but what I mean by take an idea and run with it and don't wait for other people to do it is, if you have something unique that you think of, do not wait to do it because you're scared because no one else has. I know from personal experience that it can be very intimidating to put out different types of videos from what you know is already doing well. And that's scary because you don't know if it's going to do well. And it shouldn't really matter how your videos do, but it does. And that's just a part of being a YouTuber. Those are YouTuber thoughts. But what I mean by this is, never be afraid to put unique content out there because no one else has done it before, because you could become the next viral trend or the next viral theme, or people could look at your editing and be like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. So never wait for someone else to do it. Be the person to do it. Don't feel like you have to follow every other big YouTuber's editing style or video content creation. Like, you are your own individual channel for a reason, and you should be making the content that makes you happy and is unique to you, even if that's not the most traditional, like, I'm gonna go buy a horse. Some of my videos that did so well was because they were random things that I decided to do, like the Zodiac horse video or the Harry Potter house video. So many of you loved those, and they were things that hadn't really been done in the community before, so it was terrifying to think like, oh my goodness, people might not like this, but I didn't want to wait for someone else to do it and wait for them to have that gratification of it doing well. I wanted it to be my thought and my idea and my content. So don't wait, just do. Have faith in yourself. You've got it. The second one, and this is a huge thing that I say a lot when people ask me, like, oh, what's the secret to having a successful YouTube channel? There really is no secret. It is a very individual experience every time. But if there's one thing that will help you more than anything, that is to be consistent. And by being consistent, I don't mean that you have to post every week at the same time, but I mean be consistent in your reactions and your involvement in the community and your involvement on YouTube, in the game. Just be really consistent as you go, and don't, because it's kind of like riding a bike. It's kind of like riding a bike. If you got on that bike once, you're not going to become a pro at it. You're not going to become like this super tricked out, amazing bike rider. You're just going to be able to ride a bike. But if you ride that bike consistently and you work at it and you work hard on those tricks and hard on your balance, then you're going to become an amazing bike rider, and people are going to be like, wow, and they're going to want to watch you. YouTube is the same thing. You can't create one video every 4 months and expect people to enjoy and love your channel because it's inconsistent. They only have one thing to base it off of. So try to be consistent, and consistency can be whatever it is and whatever it means to you. Consistency to me personally is making weekly videos and like posting at 12 p.m. on Fridays every week, because that's just what's worked for me. But consistency to you could be something different. Just make those boundaries really clear with your audience so that they know what to expect, rather than having expectations and being disappointed when you don't post consistently, if that makes sense. If you take anything away from this video about being a YouTuber, it's be consistent. The next tip, it's also kind of following that idea that I was just talking about, but it is that multiple platforms equals multiple places to create content and advertise. A huge thing about YouTube is it's self-motivated, and you are responsible for the success that happens and occurs to you. The algorithm does help, but in order to become successful, and consistency, like I was just talking about, is to use multiple platforms if that's possible and accessible to you. So one of the things that I mean by this is, for example, I think a huge reason why people found my channel was because I would advertise on multiple different platforms. I would put my name out there in multiple different ways. So my OG watchers know that I started out my channel by advertising in global, and it wasn't always the easiest thing. It is super intimidating. You are going to get those people that are like, can you stop advertising? This is annoying. But you're also going to get those people who check out your channel and tell their friends and tell their club members about your channel. So that was the first, I guess, platform that I advertised on, was right here in game and global chat. Then the next platform that I would suggest having if you do want to be a social media or content creator or anything of the sorts is having an Instagram dedicated to your in-game like realm and all of that. So my Instagram, a little plug, is averydawnside at SSO if you don't already follow it. But that is what I mean by having multiple different platforms, multiple different content, because it allows me to interact with all of you in a more personal way rather than in game, because, you know, chat filters, and I can't accept all your friend requests on here because I have like a limited amount. But having multiple platforms really helps, because someone might follow you on Instagram who doesn't already know that you're a YouTuber because they haven't found your YouTube channel, but they might follow you and be like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that they were a YouTuber, like let me go check out their channel, and then boom, you have another supporter. It's all about word of mouth with YouTube, and multiple platforms, multiple versions of content are better ways to get yourself out there. So don't be afraid to advertise. I mean, obviously don't run up to people and be like, go subscribe to my channel right now, or I'm gonna be really upset. Just lightly be like, I have a YouTube channel. If you like this type of blank 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 content, like, you should check it out because you might enjoy it. But if not, that's totally okay. I just wanted to let you know. And it's a little uncomfortable at first, I will admit, but over time you get easier. It will help you, it will help them possibly, because they might love your content and need to hear what you have to say. So it's a two-way street, and you just gotta put yourself out there. The next piece of advice is huge, and it kind of ties back to the first one, and that's don't always follow the trends. So it's a really common thing in the Star Stable YouTube community, as well as like on Instagram, to follow the trends. I mean, following the trends is a huge thing in real life. That's why it's called following the trends. But you don't always want to be the person to follow the trend. You want to be the person to create the trend. And by that, I mean, again, create unique content that you enjoy creating, and don't always feel like you have to make content that's already been created because everyone else is doing it. Because I think it's a misconception sometimes when people look at something that another YouTuber has done and just automatically assumes since they did it, oh, it's gonna do well on my channel too. That's not true all the time. Sometimes content literally does good because that person did it in their own way, and people just like that person for them making that video, not necessarily for the video content. I guess a way I could explain this is update day. Everyone's going to make an update video, but that doesn't mean that everyone's going to watch multiple different update videos. They're going to go to their favorite YouTubers and watch their favorite YouTubers make an update video. They don't want to watch the same update 20 times for 20 different YouTubers. They're just going to go to the one that interests them the most. And sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, they're not really going to think of you. So you want to give them other ways to think of you and other ways to think of you that aren't following the trends, and be like, oh, like, yeah, it's Wednesday. A lot of YouTubers are uploading like update day videos, and that's cool, but then maybe you update a different type of video on a Wednesday because you know that not everyone wants to watch those update videos. You know that there are people out there who want to enjoy other content on a Wednesday too. So don't always follow the trends. I mean, trends are easier to follow because it doesn't require a lot of creative imagination work, but that doesn't mean that it always pays off the best that it could. The next one is find small ways to get your community involved in the things that you do. So this also ties back to the whole different platforms. Social media really helps, but it really does help because I interact with a lot of you through my social media, through my email, through random things other than in-game, because I'm human. I cannot be in-game all the time, 24/7, 24 hours a day. Especially I can't be in-game to interact with all of you all the time because I'm doing other things. But when you have social media, it's exactly what it's called. It's social media. So it allows me to socialize and interact with you guys in a different, more personal way rather than just in-game, because again, chat filters, all of those types of things. But seriously, finding ways for your community to get involved in what you're doing is a huge thing, because that's what YouTube is. YouTube is a community, and it's kind of like that saying where it's like, it takes a village to raise a baby. Imagine your YouTube channel as a baby, as a child. It takes the people supporting you to help it grow and thrive. It helps the motivation from them to want to make content creators to create that content, and it takes you to make that content. So it's not an individual experience. You have to include, I mean, you don't have to, but it will go better if you find more ways to interact and appreciate the audience that is giving you the platform that you have. This one is really, really crucial to remember, and it's to remember that you are an equal part to those subscribed to you. Never, ever take a moment or a viewer for granted, because that will put you in a deep, deep hole. And by this, I mean, you're a person. The people who watch you are people, and that's that. You guys are equal. Just because you are the person making the content doesn't make you a better person than the people watching the content. And I think sometimes when I get those questions from you guys where you ask, do I ever feel better than the people that watch me? Not at all, because you are just people watching in a way. Like, you are watching me do something that I enjoy and interact with a game that I enjoy, and that doesn't make me better than you, because everyone's gonna have their own reactions to what I'm doing or what they're doing. Don't get in your head about being a YouTuber, because I think sometimes people believe that YouTubers have this complex of,
oh, I'm a YouTuber, I have a content creation channel, so I'm better than you.
And that is not at all true. YouTubers make the content, at least most of them. Obviously, it varies person to person, experience to experience, but YouTubers create content because it's something that they enjoy, not because they want to be seen as better than the people that watch them. I will never stop saying this, but I am the person and the content creator that I am because you guys give me the power to have a channel, to have people to watch my videos, to have people to interact with. Like, I would be nothing without the people that watch me. I would just be a random person making videos, which is exactly what I am. So if you have a channel, if you are any type of content creator, it doesn't always have to be a YouTuber. If you are a digital artist, if you are an Instagrammer, stuff like that, anything that has to do with content creation, just remember that you are equal to those who support you. You are not better than them because you are the person creating. You are the person who is created and supported because of the people that support you. The next one is focus on the road that you're on, not the road ahead of you. And this is very, very, very crucial. It's all about perception when you have a channel. It's all about the way that you view how you're doing, and that will definitely reflect in the way that you come off to people. Because, for example, if I sat down and I made my first video and I was like, I'm making this video because I want to have 100 subscribers in the next week, half of you would be deterred from me because you'd be like, oh, this girl is only in it for the numbers. She's only in it for the goals. And that's not true. Whereas if I sit down and I'm like, I'm making this video because I'm excited about what I'm creating for you guys and I thought it was a cool idea and I want to share it with you, you are going to translate your excitement to your viewers. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to focus on the numbers. You don't want to focus on the money. You want to focus on the feeling that it gives you. And I kind of talked about this in my question and answers video about YouTube and how it really is, it's a passion project for me. It makes me happy. It brings me joy. There are perks that come along with it, and I do get excited when I feel like I am at that successful threshold that I view as success, but that's not the sole reason of why I'm here and why I do what I do. I do it because I love it. It's a way for me to express what I want to do. So my best advice overall is to not it's important to have goals, but it's important to not scrutinize yourself into not being measured as successful if you don't reach those goals. The final one, you guys, I'm sure we're expecting this one, but it's to always be grateful for the smallest milestones. I talk about gratitude and being grateful for so many different things all the time, and it's kind of become my thing a little bit, but I didn't want it to become my thing. It's just something that's extremely important to me. I think that your success is not measured in the numbers or the performance that you're putting out. It's measured in your appreciation, your love, your value, your happiness, your joy because of what you're doing. And that is my best advice, is when you're on this journey to be grateful for every small little detail, because it's gonna add up. And it's so much better to do that than focus on the big things and be disappointed when the big things don't come. So, for example, when I started a YouTube channel, I think something that people jump to right away is the idea of hitting 100 subscribers, hitting those 3 digits and really getting up there. When I first started a YouTube channel, I didn't have a goal in mind. It was just something fun that I wanted to do. But I remember the first milestone that I was like, wow, this is cool, is when I hit 30 subscribers. I'll put a little picture up here of the Instagram story that I put up when I hit 30 subscribers. But that was such a huge deal to me, even though it's a small number if you look at it. But that was a huge deal to me because I just thought, oh my goodness, there is a classroom of people who watch my videos. And that's crazy to think about. So that is an example of really focusing on the small details and being grateful for the small things rather than expecting to hit 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 and waiting for those moments. You want to celebrate these successes as they come, not as they're expected. That's a really, really big one. And I have so many things that I'm grateful for in this journey, and I think that's something that is also very appreciated. This isn't one that I had on my list, but I think it's also really appreciated by viewers and watchers when they know that they're appreciated. Because I talked to a few people about this before, but I think something that's really big in the YouTube community especially is being known for being that like funny, nonchalant, like quirky, that type of content creator. And I think it's very different when you approach it from a different perspective with a more like sappy gratitude, like sentimental way that I've done. And that was something I was insecure about for a really long time, because I am a sappy, like more sentimental person. I'm not your quirky, regular, like funny YouTuber. At least I don't view myself as that way. I think I can be sometimes, but that's not who I am completely. And that was something I was insecure about for a long time, but I realized that that is a part of who I am, and not everyone wants to watch the content that makes you laugh all the time or makes you think of something funny. Sometimes they need that escape, and people like to be appreciated. So I think by showing the gratitude and really emphasizing that the people who watch your videos make you who you are makes them feel appreciated. It makes them feel warm. It makes them feel like they want to continue to give you that support because they know that you appreciate it and value it and are more than just a viewing number to that person, to that content creator. So that is a really big one for me. I think again, if you have one takeaway from this video, it's that, because that is something that I've always consistently done on my channel and made an effort to do because it's important to me. But that is all for my tips and tricks today. I'm sure there will be many that I discover over the next few months, years, days. Tips and tricks come out of nowhere. But I really appreciate you guys for sticking around and watching this video. I hope it helps you. If it did, come back to this video maybe a couple months after creating a channel or deciding to test something out and let me know how it's going, because I would love to know if these helped you, because they really helped me. But I love you all so much. I hope you know that, seriously, from the bottom of my heart. You mean so much to me, and I could not have learned any of these tips or tricks without, you know, learning from other people, learning from you guys. Constructive feedback and criticism has really helped me over the past little while. But I won't talk your ear off. I love you all so much. I've told you a million times. And yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe as always. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!